Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Finding the Way 5-part webinar series with author Cap Trieger. And with Cap today is a very special guest, Kumbi Tenoya of Urban Geeks and Geeks Ventures. And we are going to be here talking today about Finding the Way, and more specifically about Finding the Way principle number 1. But before we delve into that, Kumbi, could you just give a little bit of an introduction about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. Yeah, so my name's Kumbi Tenoya, and I'm the founder of two platforms, really. The first is Urban Geeks, which I call my 8-year-old, because the brand is 8 years old. And that's an African-American, Latinx, multicultural news platform focused on technology, business, science, and entrepreneurship. And I launched that a couple of years ago. And my new baby, my newborn, is Geeks Ventures, and that's a pre-accelerator, which has recently launched. In fact, the first cohort kicks off in March. And that's a pre-accelerator for minority-led startups. And the big thing here is that these are founders of technology-enabled startups. It's industry agnostic, the pre-accelerator. But with that being said, our focus is on media connectivity, mobile technology.
Well, that is indeed a lot to take on. So it's amazing that you're looking so well rested. But thank you for that introduction. Look forward to hearing your insights. And Cap, I've got my copy of Finding the Way here. I was just in LAX and saw it flying off the shelves in the airport bookstores. So it's exceptional that you are now a best-selling author, and that this book is achieving the recognition and success it deserves. Could you just give us a brief introduction to what Finding the Way is about and why you wrote it?
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited to be here with both of you guys, and just thankful and appreciative of both of you. Finding the Way, the Entrepreneur's Tale, is business fiction. I wrote it because I've been involved in a lot of companies and had learned, I guess, a lot of hard lessons, had some great mentors, and just like to share, pay forward some of the things that we've been through. So the book's basically a sort of a golden fleece tale. It's the story of an entrepreneur finding the way with an idea and starting a new company. And maybe the end game's about the protagonist learning to be a leader as he grows and kind of goes through the roller coaster of adventures that always seems to happen in books, and grows along the way. And I guess as readers, hopefully we get to ride along and experience and sort of grow along with them with a lot of the same lessons that founders and leaders get to experience.
Awesome. Well, and you said that this book is a fictionalized tale of real life. Is that why you chose to write it under a pen name?
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, basically, it's loosely based on a company that I started a long time ago, and we built and sold a long time ago. It was a good venue to sort of work in a lot of the lessons, the things that we learned. But there were real people there, and I didn't want to throw anyone under the bus. And really, just having fiction also gives you the ability to set things to to serve the greater purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. And really, I'm probably playing a different game than a lot of authors. I don't have a consulting practice or a speaking tour. I'm just trying to help entrepreneurs, and not looking for fame or glory or anything. So it worked well to use the pen name.
Awesome. And also has the advantage of protecting the innocent as well. So yes. Well, there's so many adventures and so much to learn and like about Finding the Way. But today we wanted to talk about the 5 essentials, which comprise a significant portion of the book. And so I guess the initial question is, how important are the 5 essentials? And what would you say to a budding entrepreneur that may be listening and considering delving into the book?
Thanks, Eric. These lessons are an important component of the book. I do think there's a lot more to it. I think a lot of people would tell you there are a lot more than 5 essentials. You could find a lot of guidance. Maybe a lot of people would tell you that it's essential to build your business on a foundation of integrity. You could say it's essential to commit to serve your customer. and to take ownership and responsibility. And I'm sure Kunbi and you would agree, there are a lot of things that are essential. But as I mentor companies, the businesses I invest in, I realize there are sort of these 5 key things that I focus a lot on, that maybe I look at a little different than everyone. Some of them, it's hard to find a good book that really explains business model the way I think of it, or truly understanding what it is that your customer's buying, because that defines the business you're in and how you position your products and everything. And certainly, we'll talk more about one of those today. But as I focus on those 5 key things that are different, hopefully there's a lot of other things in the book, but absolutely that's a big part of the process that I walk through in building my companies and with my mentors, and sort of the way I look at things with companies I get involved in. And again, if somebody had written books that articulate these points the way that I sort of, these important things, then I probably wouldn't have written this, or certainly would have been different. But I can't find books that express the things that I think are so important in the way that I do. So thanks for this opportunity to share.
Well, we're glad that you did, and thank you for that orientation to the 5 essentials. And I hope that people join us for essentials 2 through 5. But today we're going to be focusing and delving down a bit more deeply into your first essential, which is clearly understand and articulate your purpose. And I'd like to ask Kunbi first, given your experience across working with early stage founders, what does this mean to you, and why do you think this poses a challenge to people who are setting off on their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And obviously I write about entrepreneurs, I work with entrepreneurs, I'm around a lot of early stage founders, and it's so important for entrepreneurs to really be able to kind of conceptualize in a very succinct way what their business does. And I would always say, really an entrepreneur should be able to really express what their business is in, 1 or 2 sentences. There should be, 1 or 2 main themes that really encapsulate their business. Why is it so important? Because it's all about communication. You need to communicate to a potential investor, to potential partner, to your customers, what your business does. So that's very important. And that's the whole thing about, the 2-minute, 30-second pitch. So that's very important. And also, I think entrepreneurs, when you really understand, what's driving you behind the business, what your business does, it really makes you kind of really focus on, the steps from getting from A to B, C, to actually, go through that whole kind of entrepreneurial journey.
Excellent. Well, I think as you identified, Kunbi, that this essential has 2 components to it. The first is clearly understand, and then the second is articulate. And so it's one thing if you understand, that's sort of a necessary but not sufficient condition. But as you point out, the need to articulate it in a way that's understandable to those external audiences is equally essential. And so, Cap, I'd like to ask you, you made this essential number 1. Why is it an underrated essential, and why is it so tough for people to focus on this as they embark on their entrepreneurial journey?
Thanks, Eric and Kunbi, and really appreciate what you said is so powerful. And I do have it first, but I would say this: a lot of people. This is probably of the sort of what we're calling the 5 essentials. A lot of people would tell you need to articulate who you are and where you're going. And people send me their pitch decks all the time and their business plans, and that's what that's about. But I would say that this is one that I wouldn't even necessarily call it underrated so much as I look at it different than everyone else. And I've got this exercise that my best mentor did it with me 25 years ago, and I found it 10 years ago, and my life had turned out exactly like what we did. And so I've started doing it with a lot of business leaders and CEOs, and it just there are people out there. I think Tony Robbins and a lot of the self-help people have you kind of start with your life in 15 years, and I think that's kind of empowering because we don't constrain ourselves with what our lives are now, and you can work backwards from success. And of course, there are a lot of people that work through like a SWOT analysis and understanding your life now and the circumstances of your business now. And I even think there are some decent values exercises where you articulate what's important to you. But I think if you do it right and you marry all those things together, it can be powerful. It can be a call to action. It can be a source of alignment. I think to one of the points you said is if it's articulated, then other people can see and buy into where they fit, and it can even help, self-disqualifying interviews, find the right people to fit and everything. And I do think it's it's important to go first with this. We're calling these the 5 essential underrated elements, but they're all complementary. They all tie together. And this is the place to start. If you want to be purposely intentional, I'm not sure how you can really do that without a clear articulation of what you're being purposeful about and intentional toward. So, hopefully all that makes sense. And absolutely, this is where when people call me with any issue, whether it's their business or person, I start doing this for them personally as well as for their business or whatever, even a not-for-profit or whatever institution that they're driving.
I love that,
Excellent.
Kat. I've obviously, taken a look at your book, and I actually love that chapter. It's actually incredibly powerful for people to actually think about what their life will be in 5 years, 1 year, 6 months. And I don't think people do enough of that. And I read it and I remember just thinking, wow, I need to do that. And it's not actually, I suppose, it's not even just in business. It's, in your personal life, in your professional life, in in all elements of your life, where you want to live, where your home, where you envisage your home to be. And I'm just kind of commending you, because I did read that chapter and I thought it was excellent. So yeah, absolutely. Plan backwards. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah, and let me just add to that. One of the powers that I saw in that chapter is not just going for the 15-year vision, but then working it backwards. So I might want to be retired on the beach in France in 15 years, but if I don't have a more near-term goal that's going to link that aspiration with the reality needed to bring it about. And that's, I think, what a lot of people overlook in the Tony Robbins style envisioning, that you actually boil down to an actionable plan, Cap, to get you where you need to go. But before we talk about that, Kunbi, do you have an example either from your own experience as an entrepreneur or as with an entrepreneur or two with whom you've worked, where you've seen this firsthand, this power of articulating your purpose actually come to fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. And my best example really is a pitch competition that I won. My first pitch competition that I won probably about a year after Urban Geeks launched. And it was a phenomenal exercise for me, because as an entrepreneur, you're so passionate, you have this big vision that you're going to change the world, and it actually really forced me to really think very clearly what my brand does, who my competitors are, and I think more than anything else, it really and I actually say what the work I did on that pitch competition actually helped me articulate my business over the years. What was the gap in the market I was filling. And so, yes, I mean, it was literally a pitch competition. I won the Rainbow Push pitch competition. I got some money as well, an equity free grant. And that was definitely the exercise I did behind that, really understanding my business and really kind of being able to articulate what I do, who my competitors are, and, the void I was filling. So, yeah, that's definitely the best example for me.
Well, winning the competition, there's hardly more concrete result than actually winning. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Cap, I'd like to understand a little bit from you. You talked about how this is an exercise that you take people through across your interactions, whether they're entrepreneurs, businesses, nonprofits. Why is this so hard to do? Is it the understanding aspect of it, or is it the articulating, or are they both equally challenging?
We all have this sort of resistance, this baggage that gets in our ways sometimes, Eric. But I guess I'll kind of maybe try to answer that in two parts.
Okay.
I think for one thing, I think we all sort of have this sort of concept in our head. We already kind of have an idea of our values and what we think our lives are going to be like. It's the trick is in writing them down. And of course, there's research that shows if you write things down in your handwriting, you're much more likely to do it. One of the friends that I did this exercise with was a psychiatrist by training, and then he ended up getting into health administration, became the CEO of a big hospital system. And he, when I did it with him, he said, the more you sort of pour yourself and visualize and work through these points, the greater the odds are you're putting your subconscious mind to work and so many things to work when you have this understanding. He also felt like measuring it against your values and what's important to you for yourself and your business can be really empowering and help you to be more purposeful in what you're doing. And so the reason I say that is that also it's a big emotional kind of heavy thing underlying it sometimes that keeps us from articulating. So when I do this exercise with people, you could spend 6 months or more doing this and it could get complicated. I try to encourage people instead, do the best you can in 4 weeks. I have a template. You can find it in the back of the book, or, I provide it for a lot of people, but just do what you can. Perfect is the enemy of good. Just do a decent job, the best you can in 4 weeks. A lot of people come back and they revisit. But the reason I say that is just, a lot of us, we presume we know. It's not the same as having it written down. And then actually, find an accountability partner. Do it with your business partner, do it with your spouse, do it with, whoever's building the organization with you. Hold yourselves accountable to get it done as well as you reasonably can within, and in this case, I'll say 4 weeks. You can put a different date on it. But I think the problem I have, or I wouldn't call it a problem, but almost everybody that's done the exercise seemed to love it and grow and be very grateful. It's just been a challenge for busy people to make it a priority and to break through that sort of baggage or barrier that to force ourselves to do something that can be that compelling, if that makes sense.
And it's funny, because I've been looking for a book or at least a couple of books to recommend to my founders, my startup founders, entrepreneur books. So I'm definitely going to put your book back at the top of the list. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Thanks,
I'll
Kimby.
throw that in. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole idea of doing it in your own handwriting and engaging the subconscious, I would imagine, do you ever encounter any generational differences? I know that I'm of an age where when I was in school, we learned penmanship and had to write things by hand, but I imagine that today's younger entrepreneurs have had all of their writing intermediated by screens, whether it's mobile devices or computers. And so I'd just be interested in the reaction that you get when you say, no, you're going to take pen and you're actually going to write it down.
And yeah, it's interesting, Eric. I have noticed sort of a dichotomy, but it's kind of the opposite of it's more along the lines of what you're suggesting, but maybe for different reasons. When I first found this exercise, started doing it with business leaders, I was doing it with people that are older than me in many cases and very successful already. And so I thought they'll feel patronized. I want them to, I bring this exercise and I thought that, they're not going to want to walk through their life in 15 years. And who's this younger guy telling me to do all this stuff? But actually, the response was unbelievable. I can't tell you how many CEOs of bigger companies said, wow, this was life-changing. It was the best thing I've done. And so I started doing it with a lot of the people I mentor are younger, many of them in their earlier mid-20s. I thought they would be really excited about it. And a few of them are. In fact, I've been blown away by a few people, and they've been better about customizing the exercise. I think the more that you sort of own it, make it yours, the better you'll really, it works. But a lot of younger people, I think they just don't feel ready to do it yet. And I disagree with that. When I first did it, I was in my 20s with my best mentor. And, I would try to encourage them. Usually because I'm mentoring them, they'll do it anyway. And they're glad they did it. But I think younger people, I don't know that it's even the writing component of it. It's hard. I think it's just people who are not used to being purposefully intentional about their lives, suddenly being exposed to that. But when they come around, they seem to really appreciate it. And so hopefully, it's just getting sort of the credibility to get them to give it a fair shot.
Yeah, because it's really an exercise in self-reflection and self-analysis from a personal level in a profound way, in addition to your business, right? Because these are not light topics. And so I think your point about give yourself enough time to do it, but not so much that you get caught into analysis paralysis, that 4-week versus a 6-month timeline allows you to be accountable and allows this exercise to be actionable, and then change it or augment it as you go along once you get it out. And so I guess my next question is, does that purpose that you've understood and articulated, does it get modified as you go along the journey, or is it immutable? And Kumbi, your thoughts on this?
And actually, sorry, you didn't book one out. If we repeat that question, I didn't quite get it.
I'm having a little hard time hearing you. I don't know if your mic is not working quite as well. And I don't know, Cap, are you having the same issue?
Yeah, I was hearing you well earlier, Kumbi, but not quite as well now. So it may be
Oh,
maybe
wow.
holding up.
I think you're back.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're great.
Great now.
So please
Okay.
continue.
But no, can you repeat the question? Because you kind of cut out. I think,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Sorry. I guess I was talking about as you go on the journey of both life and entrepreneurship, once you've understood and articulated your purpose, does it change, and is it modified, or is it an immutable North Star that's once it's down,
Yeah.
it's there forever?
Yeah, it's funny, because I was thinking about that. I think that you need, in life, in business life, any area of your life, you obviously need focus, you need goals, you need end goals, you need that big vision, and then obviously you need the smaller mile steps to get there. But life, things happen in life. That's I suppose the beauty of this world is that life is unpredictable. It could be a health issue, it could be an issue that took you to a different country. There's so many things that happen. No matter how much you plan, you just never know. So I do believe that, as well as, having your vision and your goals and your 5-year, 2-year, your 1 month, your 1 week, your daily plan, there obviously has to be flexibility, depending on, what happens, so yeah, without a doubt, there has to be flexibility. Yeah.
Fantastic
Yeah.
insights. Cap, any thoughts on that same question?
Yeah, and of course, I agree with Kumbi. Life happens, things happen. We have to be react. Sometimes our values and our goals change, but I will say that I think sort of the trick, for me as a businessman, and a lot of the causes I'm involved in, there's always that trick, because I think somebody said that maybe it's the second surest way to not succeed is to not change when you need to. The surest way is to change too often. And actually, we talk a little bit about that in one of our future essentials. But
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said for having a North Star to keep in mind. And when I've done this exercise with a lot of people, I've revisited mine. I enjoy redoing it. Got a friend who's a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company that redoes his about every year and a half, and he calls me every time he does it. So that's why I know he enjoys redoing it. But for me, the biggest feedback I get from people I did it with 10 years ago is that it actually, things worked out the way they thought. Maybe they reacted to things or whatever, but they're sort of, their values have stayed consistent. They've even used it as sort of a check. Although obviously I respect if people's values change or grow or evolve. But what the biggest feedback I've got is that things didn't happen necessarily on the timeline they expected, but eventually worked out as they had hoped or thought. But yeah, I think, and for myself, I always want to grow and kind of look in the mirror and see if I'm staying on track or if I should change. And that part of it can even be enjoyable, Eric.
Yeah, that's great. Now, is this something that you can do yourself, or how essential that you have that partner in accountability that holds you to doing the hard work, or does it completely depend on the individual?
It depends on the individual, but for me, I need accountability, and I don't like accountability, but it helps me. And I would say the majority of people that I do the exercise seem to like the accountability, but I've done it for, people that are in groups like Vistage or YPO or EO. Some of them do it with a forum together so they can hold one another accountable. A lot of people I know do it with their spouse or life partner. I've found a lot of people like to do it with their business partners because it helps, making sure you reconcile. Again, here's where we agree on who we are, where we're going, our values and all that. So I think the partner can have value aside from the accountability. But I would say the majority, but certainly not all of the people I've done it with benefited by drawing a line in the sand, putting a date on it, getting it done, and then revisiting as they would like after that.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Well, I know we're growing short in our time together. Kumbi, any final pearls of wisdom that you'd like to leave our audience with as we wrap up here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I would say is, so just quick advice I'd give to founders is that, you can't do it on your own. And that's just something, I'm actually saying that to myself because I'm like a workaholic and, I'm very capable and sometimes I do way too much. I think one of the things that founders need to do, particularly early on, is to get your tribe, get your village very early on, and to be smart about, your team. And because I think, there's a lot of people that say, the best thing I did is to hire someone smarter than me. So I think that's one of the really important things, to actually surround yourself with really smart people. And I think there's two ways really in terms of people that can help you. One, obviously the mentors, people that have been there, done that. You need those types of people in your life that actually steer you in the right direction. And then also the other thing that you need is you need maybe younger people or, interns or whatever who can sort of automate the low hanging fruit. And that's very important because you don't want to work in the business, you want to work on the business. And I'm just saying three things I think are very important. Great team, mentors, people that can actually do some of the day-to-day jobs that you don't need to do. And the other thing I always highly recommend is to automate as much as you can. Automate your systems. Those are three last pieces of advice.
Well, there is so much packed into that I'm going to immediately go to the recording and review that and unpack it. But we'll let you have the last word, Kumbi. Finding the Way is available not only in airports, but at that little company that starts with a and has everything from A to Z under the sun. And also, please follow Finding the Way on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I really do hope that you'll consider joining us for our next installment in our webinars. So, Kumbi, Cap, thanks so much for being here. And
thank you, Ellie. Thank you.
Look forward to continuing on the entrepreneurial journey together.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much to both of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye now.